We have, first of all, the mayor, the Copenhagen mayor, City of Copenhagen mayor, Cecilia Lonning-Skovgaard. Yes, there you are. There you are. Welcome, Cecilia. We have Rolf, Kjærgaard, CEO of the Growth Foundation, or Vækstfonden. Dyhr, CEO of the Unemployment Fund of the Akademikernes, I suppose would be the, more or less, you can correct me later. I would like to also see Dyhr Bak, CEO of Greater Copenhagen. Greater Copenhagen includes also southern Sweden and even Roskilde, I believe. And then we have Anette Steenberg, Director of Copenhagen Capacity. Do we have everyone? We are almost. After this panel, we will have a break. We will have a lunch break in about 50 minutes. So don't worry, you will get some new energy and get up and standing. So this is about Copenhagen, the new sustainable hub. Whether it's new, I don't know, but I'm sure our speakers can answer that. I've asked all the panelists to give a short 5-6 minute introduction to what they do and in this field of green impact, and then we will have a conversation among the panelists. But I would like to ask, first of all, Cecilia Lonning-Skovgaard, Mayor at the City of Copenhagen, to start out.
Wonderful, and this works by itself.
Yeah, it works.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. It's absolutely fantastic to come out and meet at a sort of more physical level, and well, then added to the fact that the sun and the summer has finally come out. Well, aren't we the lucky ones? Obviously, sort of standing at across the street at the City Hall of Copenhagen, we put a great deal of effort into thinking, how to kickstart Copenhagen, how to restart Copenhagen following the COVID-19 pandemic. Lots of things, as you know, have been demolished. Not least our tourism and experience sector is vastly in trouble. We look into an increased number of unemployed Copenhagen citizens and so on. So there's definitely sort of time to pause and think, how to move ahead, and to think, Copenhagen 2.0. What will be the driving forces? What are, what's to drive the growth? What's to drive the city forward? And obviously, the whole sort of sustainability agenda springs to mind here. Obviously, it's not something the municipality can do alone. It needs to be a sustained cross-sector effort, including everything from companies, unions, our utilities, universities, private sector organizations, and so on and so forth. Really everyone coming across and looking into, where are the growth levers of the future? Where are the companies? Where are the jobs of the future? And I think from my point of view, there are basically two things I put my time and effort into. One is with the sort of mayor hat on, sitting as responsible for the employment and integration area. It's really about investigating, do we have the labor force of the future? Do we have a labor force matching the requirements of all the companies endeavoring on various green projects? And that goes both for some of the members in Willy's department, some of our academics. Do they have the right skills? If not, can we then, with minor courses, some upskilling, can we ensure that they can actually step in and take a part here? And obviously the other part is looking at sort of the younger part of the population. Can we encourage more young people to enter into vocational skills? Can we encourage more young people to do that and thereby make a personal and very concrete effort in terms of sustainability? The other thing would be with a sort of more political hat on, where I think it's really important that on the part of the City Hall that we tell a story about how making Copenhagen a green frontrunner is an effort for everyone, but it's also a positive effort for everyone, and it's really on us as politicians to make sure that it's if not fun, then definitely sort of optimistic, easy, transparent for Copenhagen citizens to step into this effort. Most of what our citizens hear from the City Hall is about things that need to be banned or removed. The same partly goes for the government. Last week we heard about how wooden stoves need to be banned, how certain cars need to be banned, and so on and so forth. I think it's very important that we also try to see how can we make it easy for the citizens to engage in this effort. How can we make it easy to switch to an electric car? Well, that goes for the infrastructure. We need to ensure that there's enough spaces where you can then actually charge your electric car. How can we further build on the momentum we have with the recycling? It needs to be, again, it needs to be easy for our citizens to contribute here. So those would be my introductory remarks. A big responsibility, definitely, to step into this agenda, and with some market thoughts, both in terms of the sort of mayor department and the more sort of political department.
Thank you very much, Cecilia Lonning-Skovgaard. I know you've had these different consulting roundtables where you've asked for advice, and we're really looking forward to hear more about what they told you and what you're planning for the future. Rolf Kjærgaard, you're the CEO of the Growth Foundation that the EIF and the EIB, etc., are working with on several of these issues. Let's hear what does the Growth Foundation do when it comes to green impact?
Thank you, and thank you so much for letting me be here today, not only physically but emotionally, because this is a really important agenda. We all know that. Everyone subscribes to that all throughout, or at least the ones that don't already. Let's get them started, because this is really, really crucial. At what you're calling the Growth Foundation at Vækstfonden, Vækstfonden really is the name that we use for who we are and what we do. We're trying to build that brand not only nationally but internationally, because this is a global agenda, and we have great opportunities, great technologies, great entrepreneurs, great SMEs, great companies all throughout Denmark that can really deliver into that agenda. At Vækstfonden, we invest on behalf of all Danish citizens. We're the Danish government's investment fund, long-term capital to be provided toward building new companies and growing existing companies. So with a very clear focus on SMEs, and what our shareholders, all of us Danish citizens, expect is for government to invest in a complementary fashion to what the private sector is doing. So everything we do in order to leverage private capital. We can do direct lending, we can do guarantees, we can do investments with companies directly, or invest with local funds and international funds, all with a Danish angle to what we do. Over the years, we've been pursuing two bottom lines. For the past almost 30 years, where Vækstfonden has been around, it's been about the financial bottom line, making sure that Vækstfonden itself is viable, but more importantly, the bottom line that measures economic impact. So that's about job creation, that's exports, that's tax revenues, that's all the stuff that feeds into our GDP as a nation and keeps it growing, keeps it expanding. Now, over the past decade or so, we've been introducing a third bottom line: sustainability and green transition. So this means that everything we do, all throughout our portfolio exposure, all throughout our networking activities, also has to deliver on that third bottom line, driving sustainability and green transition. And why is that? Well, it's because we need that as a community globally, but we also are increasingly becoming aware of all the great business opportunities out there. Green transition goes hand in hand with great business. And we've formed an investment thesis behind everything we do at Vækstfonden, which essentially is about the companies of the future being sustainable. And those companies that are already on that path, let's keep fueling them. Let's keep growing them so that they can build even bigger, stronger, and internationally. And those that are not already on that path, we need to get them on that path, because in the future, if you're not sustainable, you'll be wiped out by the competition, whether it's a local player or an international player. So that feeds into everything we do, and we're extremely encouraged by the fact that only last year we were equipped with yet another mandate at Vækstfonden, given by the Danish government and parties behind it in the Danish parliament, 10 billion Danish kroner, so 1.6 billion US, to drive investments and funding for green transition. And I look forward to hearing all the great input from our fellow panelists and from people throughout to help us become even more inspired as to where should that 10 billion Danish kroner go. Because there are definitely great opportunities out there. We're building a momentum nationally. This is a big international agenda. Let's keep pushing that.
Thank you, Rolf. And I will ask you later on a question. You know, I'm born on Bornholm, which is as far east as you can get, pretty much, and I grew up in Esbjerg, which is as far west as you can go. The 10 billion, are they all going to land here in Copenhagen, or will they be all over Denmark? We can discuss that in a little while. But first, really, Dyhr, the first thing I would like for you to give me the right title in English of Akademikernes A-kasse.
Well, that's quite difficult, but insurance fund we see as for unemployed people. And I think it's a part of the Danish welfare system that we have this benefit that you can actually pay a few money, and if you are out of job, then we will ensure that you have at least some kind of base economy. And we are an insurance company, of course, in that way, but we see us much more like a bridge between jobs and companies, between education and your future role in the job market. And I think it's in that way I'll speak here today. And I'm happy to speak here about hope, future possibilities, because I think that's quite engaging, as you said. Hope and future. Copenhagen, sustainable city. I can tell you that we have plenty of people here, well-educated academic people who really want to have a job with purpose, jobs where they can contribute to better society, where they can play this role about just moving us a little bit closer to a sustainable future. So many of them, they are of course looking for opportunities to spend all their working hours improving the world. And that's what we do. We try to show them, lead them to the companies where they actually need this kind of competence, this kind of creativity, this kind of engagement. But we also try to challenge many of these academic people, because they have a very narrow focus or narrow understanding of what they are actually capable of. They are educated as a designer, engineer, and what is quite difficult is to move these people out to SMEs with CEOs with great ideas. So we try to make this bridge between these great ideas and these skilled, engaged, creative people. That's the role we try to play. So we also actually, if you are unemployed and you are a member of our insurance fund, then we ask you, do you want to start up a company your own? So we have this program where people, they can try to start up companies, and I think it's about one-third of the companies that actually start up out of our little business that is focused on sustainable products or sustainable services. So we also try ourselves to help people making the world a little bit better.
You have your own kind of incubator, you could say.
Yes.
Yes.
We have. Only 40 people at a time, so that's very, very high. Many people want to participate, and we can only give it to 40 people at a time. When they develop their ideas at our place, they of course they create companies. Many of them have problems getting funding for the ideas, but I think that's a common problem we all know, and I hope that we can become even better here in Copenhagen at funding these ideas, and also take the risk that maybe not all ideas are that good or have the right timing. I think that what we can deliver to Copenhagen and to the companies in Copenhagen is skilled people who want to improve the world, but also have the courage to challenge themselves with new ideas, unknown lands, doing other jobs than they were educated at, and I think that's quite an important role for us. So we see ourselves very much as a partner in this. We cannot drive it ourselves, but we can partner up with the municipality, with people with funds, companies, and that way I think together we can create a better world. And also I think that in Denmark we have many sustainable hubs. In Jutland they know how to make pumps and thermostats and windmills. I think in Copenhagen we should find other areas where we can develop sustainable solutions and sell them to the rest of the world. And I think we need this diversity in skills and educations that we actually can support with our members.
So really, your unemployment insurance fund is like a really important part of the Danish flexicurity system. The fact that it's relatively easy, at least if you compare to France, for example, to hire and to fire employees in Denmark. And besides helping them with financing their unemployment, you also help them with the skills. And I would like to ask you later on about the skills that you help them with. Is it all digitization or sustainability skills, if there's such a thing? It must be difficult for someone who studied Nordic literature to suddenly move into a different path. But let's get back to that later. First, we will hear from Dyhr. He's the CEO of Greater Copenhagen. So you take a bit broader. You're not all the way to Bornholm, or are you? But certainly not all the way to Esbjerg.
Not all the way to Esbjerg for those who are into geography, but I do stretch with my organization from Rødby by the Femern Belt in the south all the way up to Kungsbacka just south of Gothenburg. So a big slice of southern Sweden and all of eastern Denmark, which is what we call Greater Copenhagen. It's actually a economic coherent area, even though it's two countries. It actually, anybody who lives in Copenhagen knows Malmö is just across the bridge, but economically there's a lot of cooperation. And my mandate is really to further that, to build a much stronger metropolitan area. Let me just give a brief introduction to Greater Copenhagen and our fit into sort of the green space and the green impact space. First of all, it was sort of an idea of great people like the mayor of Copenhagen and a number of other cities who said we need a little bit of size if we're going to be attractive for people in China, people in the Middle East, people in the US and other places who are looking, where is the action sort of economically? Where does innovation take place? And they sort of, in a musketeer oath, all at the time 85, now 89 members sort of grabbed each other's hands and said, we will create together a strong economic hub. We call it Greater Copenhagen. It stretches, as I said, southern Sweden and the eastern part of Denmark. Now, what's a little bit special about this organization is it has a mandate to further economic development, but the members are municipal authorities like the city of Copenhagen and the regions in this geography, and they don't really do growth. So their sort of idea was, can we be the voice of this? And so they started sort of a little bit of a lobbying effort. But then in 2020, they made sort of a big leap forward because they were all into the Greta Thunberg and trying to save the world kind of thing. But they were sort of more and more asking themselves, how do we fit into this? Instead of just being on the sidelines, applauding green growth, can we take a bigger active part in this field? And so they came out with sort of a joint strategy for this, and I won't bore you with all the details, but I will say this. You have 89 municipal authorities and regional governments who are now saying, can we use our buying power, our purchasing power, procurement power? Can we use the fact that we run very big operations to further that agenda that the people have been speaking to? So when Rolf and Vækstfonden are looking to fund companies, they need the money side, but they also, and he takes care of that, but they also need sometimes design partners, somebody who will work with the very early technology, somebody who will pioneer something together with them. And in our system, that sometimes takes place in the public sector, and I have 89 members who said, we're ready to try it out. And so they've already forced some of the companies that they run, like Ho4 and others, to try to pilot this. They're doing new partnerships, they're opening up, they're looking into innovation in the green space, and I think that's the new thing about Greater Copenhagen. We're trying to get into that field, and that's why it's exciting to be up here with what I call the four heroes. You know, Copenhagen, the city, that's doing a lot of great things in this place. Rolf, who's sort of the lead investor into this, you bring in the talent of tomorrow, and then we'll get to Anette in a second, who's sort of carrying the international investors into this. If I can play a little part in that and gluing it all together and opening up the greater organization for my members, I think that's the role for Greater Copenhagen. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you too. And you already mentioned Anette Steenberg, Director of Copenhagen Capacity. And so you just have to make sure that the taxes are low, weather is good, and everyone will be happy and relocate here. So that's an easy task, right?
That's very easy, yes. Thank you for that. But that's exactly one of the points. Copenhagen Capacity promotes Greater Copenhagen in terms of city place branding. We attract foreign direct investment and talent. But talking about also what you mentioned initially about Bornholm, we also include Bornholm, but not Esbjerg. But our mission is actually that our metropolis, which is the only metropolis we have in Denmark, Greater Copenhagen, is to be the lever for growth in all of Denmark. And bottom of the fact is actually that attracting foreign direct investment and top knowledge institutions, top talent, it requires something special. And since we can't, maybe except with today, brag about the weather, and we cannot compete on taxes, there are other countries, EU and non-EU countries in our neighborhood that are doing much better there in terms of those incentives. We need to have something else, and we definitely do. But it is also very important that the metropolis has this terms of competences. We are not afraid to say we go for the winners. We are in the game of picking the winners. If we are to attract top foreign direct investors, top talent, top academic professors, researchers, and institutions, we need to have something else when we don't have the tax incentives and the weather. And we do, fortunately. We have our expertise. And when it comes to the green transition, we have a lot to offer. There's no doubt that within the wind industry, Denmark is already world known and in world class. But the competitors are still there, so we need to continue strengthen that strength. Moreover, we need to develop new ones. And there's a lot of opportunities that you will see throughout this week within the green transition area, where we actually can develop new world-class leading areas. That could be within, for instance, carbon capture. We are already one of the first movers. Will we be one of the areas that would actually find a sustainable way of getting rid of the carbon capture? It could be within mobility. When it comes to biking, Denmark, Copenhagen is already #1 in terms of biking amount of people using their bike as also a transportation. There's a lot of areas within the green transition where Denmark are in the lead, but we could even move further up. And this is what we are trying to do by strengthening the strongholds we already have, of course trying to inspire new ones, and then trying to attract these companies to come here. It's both in terms of companies, and it's very important, one of our strategic goals are actually to attract sustainable companies, sustainable investments here, but also the talents that come here, that there are talents that want to come here for purpose-driven jobs. In that sense, we have our flexicurity, which is definitely one of the strongholds we have and we can compete with when we can't compete without taxes. We have our great cooperation, our triple helix cooperation we are really good at cooperating between public, private, and academic stakeholders, something that foreign investors are amazed about how easy it is to enter into dialogues with public authorities here. So we have a lot going for us, and very importantly, we have the politicians that set the bar really high, supported by the businesses. So we have a lot of opportunities, but we can't rest on our laurels, and that's also why we're supporting in our strategy that not only we want to support and strengthen the fact that Copenhagen will be the first CO2 neutral capital in the world, but we also want to make it the most sustainable capital in the world. And we look forward to that, and this week is absolutely fantastic on that journey. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Anette Steenberg. So now we're open for a panel discussion, but if any of you have questions for the panel, you can actually write them in the chat, and I will somehow be transmitted these questions right up here on my table as far as I know. But let's see. Last year we had questions from Vietnam and London and all kinds of places. Cecilia, I promised I would get back to you on these roundtables, and jumping from Anette's saying that we have the expertise. Is that also what the roundtables concluded, that to build this new sustainable hub, we're fine, or is there a different message? I don't know. I haven't seen the results yet. It's not out.
No, but it's true. We, over the course of the spring, we conducted a number of roundtable discussions with, as you say, representatives from the business side, unions, education institutions, and so on. And the very clear message was that, no, we're absolutely not fine. Indeed, there's a very sort of large burning platform stemming from the fact that in just a few years' time, we'll lack skilled resources to drive the more specific part of the green transition. We lack people who can go out and actually set up the infrastructure chargers for our electric vehicles. We lack people who can install solar panels on our rooftops and so on. But we also lack people educated within sort of the STEM field of disciplines to think and imagine what are the next layer of innovative solutions. So both on the more hands-on part and on the more sort of mental visionary part, we lack skilled resources, and it's going to take a very large joint effort for us to get there.
Maybe you should do something that I know the City Hall also does with craftsmanship. Every year you celebrate the Danish graduates from the different craft school, really touching ceremony with the Queen, handing over these medals. So maybe putting some more attention on these skills, would that be a way forward, or what are they recommending?
I think definitely that's one of many steps. So definitely one part is to make it more glamorous to enter into one of the vocational education fields, get more young people interested in entering this, both by highlighting some of the sort of show that can be around it, but also by, I think, talking to the sense of purpose that several of the other ones mentioned, the sense of purpose that our young people carry with them, the willingness to actually go in and take sort of a personal responsibility for the green transition. I think there's added to that, there's definitely an effort to get more young females interested in choosing this career path,
yeah.
Because we see a big gender bias. And then I think there's another path in terms of getting hold of the whole mid-career segment, people who are in their 40s, early 50s, who did a vocational education years back and may need some upskilling, may also need some upskilling to prevent them from basically falling out of the labor market due to maybe bad physical health, but also to make sure that they have sort of knowledge of what the latest trends are. So I think on a number of fronts we'll need to work on addressing this skills shortage.
It's important to remember that SDG is more than climate, and or the sustainability is also about gender issues, for example. And you pointed out here that we need some more women in this field, and also we also need some more investment in startups with female founders. That's something that I know you, Rolf, is also working on. Rolf, I promised I would get back to you on the different geography also of Denmark. You have no hesitations of letting all the 10 billion end up here in not just Greater Copenhagen, but right here, right?
It's certainly not our strategy to do that.
But it might be so. It might end up that way, right?
We're going to follow the demand for capital. So what we're setting out to do, what we're already in the process of doing, is getting out there and promoting the fact that now there's capital available. For several years, entrepreneurs, academics, even existing companies have been complaining about the fact that they wanted to do something in the green area, in the sustainable area, but they could not find the funding. Well, now at least there is 10 billion kroners worth of funding. And it's not about the 10 billion kroner only. I mentioned in my brief introduction how everything we do at Vækstfonden, we do it in order to leverage private capital. So we expect for this 10 billion Danish kroner over the years to be provided toward individual companies and individual funds, whether national or international, that we can attract to invest in Danish companies, and most certainly a lot of those companies will be domiciled here in Copenhagen. But the 10 billion should translate into 40, 50 billion Danish kroner when we count all the money coming from pension funds and business angels and banks and insurance companies and what have you, all the different private players out there that are so important because they're sitting on so much capital. We're not in this situation for lack of capital. When we look at the Danish pension funds, they command 4.2 trillion Danish kroner of capital. That's just waiting for profitable investments. They're doing a great job at that, but they're also looking for ways to channel some of that capital into the green future. And that gets back to setting up schemes and models and different types of partnerships like you're talking about too, that can help some of that capital feed into making it possible for entrepreneurs to start their new businesses and also fuel growth and innovation toward green transition and sustainability in existing companies. And the panel just before we got on stage, we're talking about this great potential in Danish SMEs. A lot of them are waking up to the fact that there are business opportunities and a great impact to be seized upon by going sustainable. Some are not yet, but we need to promote how the great opportunities are out there, and we need to leverage their skills and make it possible for them to attract the talent and retain the talent in order to deliver on all of that. So that gets me back to, yes, we are already funding a lot of great companies here in Copenhagen, but we believe in the power of synergies, in the power of clustering, and how money invested with an entrepreneur just around the corner here in Copenhagen is going to drive academic research and innovation all throughout Denmark and even way beyond the Danish borders to drive this move toward green transition.
You might, but I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that your close to 100 members, municipalities, would be driving this agenda through public procurement. But isn't often public procurement, isn't it difficult to be innovative in the demands in the public procurement? Isn't it difficult for the municipalities and the regions to foresee or to ask for something that they don't know yet what can come? We do have actually in the next panel after lunch, Maria Skotte from Clean, who will speak a little bit about how to match research and SMEs and public demand. But how are they going to do it, your municipalities? And then chip in.
I think they're trying to figure out. I mean, I say some are really advanced and some are really trying to find their feet in this game. Procurement allows, at least the Danish side, but also on the Swedish side, really allows for innovation to take place, public procurement. A lot of people are a little bit hesitant to go that road because for some it's new. But I don't think it's mostly a legal issue. I think it's more sort of, we're used to doing it in a sort of more traditional way. So I do think there are the tools. But let me just give you a thought on the two first speakers here from my perspective, looking at all of southern Sweden and eastern Denmark. I think we are beginning to see that we've, I won't say fixed, but we're doing better on the capital side. I think there is money into the system. I think there's a lot of funding available. Always could be better, but it's not bad. And I think Vækstfonden is doing a great job. But I do think what the mayor was mentioning, this idea of skills, I think we just done analysis looking into 2030. Even for the Swedish side and the Danish side, there's going to be a lack of the skills needed at all levels to fuel the green transition. It's a fact. We might get a little bit of help from unemployed people who we can sort of change to sort of their skill set. It might also be a little bit of a long journey. So I think that is where really we have a barrier for the coming years. And I know Anette does a great job with her colleagues trying to attract talent, but they have the same challenge in Hamburg, in Berlin, in Stockholm, and even further apart. So I think this is where it's really going to be the barrier. Can we fix this problem of having the talent to both know something about the green transition and also be able to start companies and run successful startups? Because I'm sorry to say, it's not all going to come from the giants that we know today in the corporate sector.
So that's what you see as the main challenge for Copenhagen becoming the new sustainable hub is the lack of talent, these green skills. That
we have great talent, but we need a lot more for this transition. I think that's the story. And we can't educate them all ourselves, even with the best of success and all the great efforts the municipality authorities and educators are doing.
Yeah. I know our Japanese partner in the Creative Business Network are working with 80-year-olds, trying to help them with their digital skills, because they have another 30, 40 years to live. So they need to drive up their skills in digitization and to work, actually, also. And our partner in Italy is working together with something called Alta Gamma, which organizes Ferrari, Gucci, Ducati, etc. They have the problem with that all the young people wants to study how to make an app and all the tech stuff, but they need really some other skills, these companies, designers and crafts. So it seems like what we're seeing now, and it is like this global competition for talents. How are we going to make sure that we are attractive to, well, one thing is we can educate them and make sure that we have people who can install car battery rechargers, but we also have to maybe make sure that we can attract them. We have to lure them here from China and Germany and elsewhere.
That is right. And the answer to the big question of who won the war on talent, it's very evident. Because talented. And it will be talent deciding where they're going, and not the companies. So you can have fantastic big companies in California. They can attract a lot of talent, but there's also a lot of talent who don't want to work there. They don't want the work-life balance that there is in Silicon Valley. They don't want the pollution. They don't want the traffic. They don't want that the kids can't take public transport or ride a bike, etc. So what we see is that some of the things that talent are really interested in, first of all, purpose-driven job. Of course, there's a lot of talents who also go for the money, but the newer generation are more purpose-driven. So there we got something going for us. I don't think we can compete on the money side. And then also the whole work-life balance, the flexicurity. We have a lot of very, very attractive things for talents. The challenging side is more how easy is it to get into Denmark and stay here and maintain residency and work permit, and what about your spouses, etc. Then that becomes another area that can be challenging. But fundamentally, Denmark has a lot to offer talent.
I've heard that some of our big schools also have a trouble with keeping the students in the city, that once you've completed your CBS, Copenhagen Business School, 5-year study, or how much it's been, then half a year later, only a quarter or so are still here in the city. So they've been introduced to Copenhagen, but they still head out.
It takes an extra effort to keep the talents here. We have to be better at making sure they get internships in companies so they get to understand and get into the Danish company system. It's also when they apply for a job, they need time to be able to stay here whilst they apply for jobs. And basically, they need a network. Another thing, of course, if they have spouses, can their spouses get a job here and residency? So there's some frameworks where we have to cater a little bit more for the needs foreign talent has that doesn't know the system or have the network because they have lived here or have family here for a long time.
As I said in the beginning, this year, 2021, is the UN year for creative economy for sustainable development. In other words, what can all the creatives do for sustainable development? Did the green jobs, green skills, competences, did they point any towards that? Design competences or storytelling, production of and materials, etc.? Was that any of the conclusions?
Our panel participants had a very sort of pragmatic approach to it, starting with the realization that just looking at sort of the traditional STEM disciplines, we need a lot of more people to enter into those areas and at all levels of sort of the career ladder. And then yes, then there's an overlying dimension in terms of the people who can then, interpret, who can tell the designers what the IT people are thinking, who can talk to the engineers and tell them what the behavioral specialists believe will be the next big thing and so on. And we do have a lot of those. I mean, we do have, unfortunately, a lot of unemployed people who've graduated within the humanities. So I think there's less of a concern in the short term. But obviously, at some point, we need to make those disciplines meet, and we need to make sure that they can actually then communicate and understand each other. And then just to Anette's point, I would say that I completely agree that it takes an extra effort for us to retain the international students here. Last week, we graduated with yet another cohort of international students who've completed a special program, especially focusing on the things that Anette mentioned in terms of how do you get a network, how do you apply for a job within or an internship with a Danish company. And it's really, it's always very moving to see the enthusiasm and the excitement about sort of having graduated in Denmark and how they actually want to stay here. And then it's our job to help them make sure that happens.
So you see that there might be a future for the translators or those that can make the different skills groups work together.
I hope so, and Willy does the same.
I studied political science. I can tell if any of you have kids that are lazy or not that bright, political science is the way forward, because as long as they listen to the radio, the news, or read the newspapers on a regular basis, then there's no problem with completing a political science study. And before I got this job, I was fortunate to get the engineers of Rambøll to work together with the architects of Kobe and Slet, and we won the Nordhavn master plan back in 2009. And I think these skills of understanding that we come from different backgrounds with different knowledge on how to attack a problem, that is something that we could maybe focus a bit more on. And then it's also easy. Anette?
Yeah, when you're saying that, I'm just thinking, you also mentioned earlier that SDGs, they are not just green SDGs. Mm-hmm. There are also other SDGs like diversity, equality, but also health. And this is actually where Denmark and Copenhagen are excelling in terms of our architecture and our city planning. If you walk around Copenhagen, first of all, there's a lot of bikes. It's very good for bikes and pedestrians. There's a lot of multifunctional areas. And the architects, I think it's the Bjarke Ingels that says that the hedonistic architecture, where you also have to use your exercise while transporting yourself, or it's beautiful to look at whilst also being functional. You build a parking garage with a fitness and a playground on top, so you try to. So there's a lot there also on the sustainable area that Denmark can play into, good examples and inspiration.
I was at a conference in Santiago de Chile by the Inter-American Development Bank, and part of the pitches of one of the startups was this video of the traffic jam in the morning at Dronning Louise's Bro. There's this bridge, or kind of bridge where you go into town, and it's where there's so many bikes that you actually don't manage to pass. When the green lights come on, there are too many bikes in front of you. You still have to wait until you pass on. So it's definitely something that has moved forward. But we might risk doing like in Beijing, where it becomes unfashionable to actually take the bike. But I know we have several initiatives trying to keep people to bike. Willy,
Just to support this argument about that, we of course we need a lot of people with STEM skills to develop a more sustainable society. But that's the approach you see all over the world. I think that if we should have our own way, maybe we should, to a higher degree, bring, what do we have, a master in psychology, a priest, whatever, into some of these processes, companies, developments, because I think we will, that's a way to find solutions that you will not find anywhere else. So I think we should try to have a more broad approach to what kind of skills we actually could put into play to develop more sustainable society. One point. The other one is about the international workforce. Many of the members at us who is unemployed is actually the international students, because when they graduate the Danish universities, they have quite huge difficulties finding a job in Denmark, not only because of their spouses, but also because we have some language issues that we should focus on as well, because...
Are 28 vowel sounds?
So, yeah. But yes, but you know that many Danish small companies they do not speak other languages than Danish, and that's actually a problem. If you have been studying here for 3 years or 5 years, you are not very fluent in Danish, and that's actually a barrier for these skilled people to join this. What to say, voyage to a more sustainable society.
We could maybe also argue that the Danes are too good at English, so if you're a foreign student, you don't really need to learn to speak Danish. I remember when I lived in Brussels, I had to learn French. I didn't have to learn Flemish. So that's maybe the other way around. Tue?
Maybe just to add a point on, I think, on the very positive side, because we do have some challenges, but one thing that we've seen in our collaboration with the Swedish side is we can suddenly get some solutions that are very attractive for companies to be part of. Let me just give you one example. We just built a partnership by matchmaking a weather data center on the Swedish coast with a weather data center on the Danish coast. It sounds super simple, but bringing them together in an alliance, now they're sharing their data, and now they're actually working to open up this data so private companies who can do all kinds of crazy cool things with data, as you know, are jumping into this field. So I think one thing that we're seeing in Copenhagen, which is not just the Danish Copenhagen, but the whole southern Sweden, eastern Denmark geography, is that you can build collaboration, you can build some partnerships that are unimaginable elsewhere. And I think that is an edge, and you mentioned it, Anette, but I think that is an edge that we have in this geography, and that's going to, I won't say leapfrog us ahead, but really give us a step ahead of many other places in the world. They just don't understand that kind of collaboration. They're good with private collaboration. They know how to do that in the US, but public-private collaboration, you're like, no way. Here you can do that, and I think that's a unique selling point for this geography. And now we bring in the Swedes. It's even better.
True. I'm wondering, actually, back to you, Willy. Sometimes change comes out of urgency. And the fact that you don't really end up in a situation of urgency, is that, could that be, in which way does that work, that force, when it comes to innovation and wanting to become an entrepreneur? You're working with, 4 times a year, you have 40 unemployed academics of all sorts of fields, and they have all a desire to become entrepreneurs, or maybe, or where is the desire?
Well,
stemming from?
They all have an idea they want to try out, and we test them, we develop them, we connect them with funding, we challenge the ideas to see if it is sustainable on the market, and a lot of unemployed academics, actually, they do have a lot of ideas that they want to focus on and to build new companies or to build a better world, whatever drives them. So I think that we here, due to the flexicurity model, actually can ensure that they do have some kind of sound financial situation, so they can develop the ideas. I think that actually brings more ideas to life than this, if they should focus on just bringing food on the table.
Because, for example, in Greece, I know you see a lot of olive oil farmers, and you would think these olive oil farmers is a mom and pop shops, but there's actually a lot of young people that have been driven from Athens into the countryside, and then trying to because out of need, out of this, there was no security for them. They had to somehow make a living, and The only way they could do that was to take over a piece of land from their parents and then start growing olive oil or honey or whatever it was. But I guess it can work both ways.
Yes, I think it's the story about the stick and the carrot, because sometimes people think that if you just put enough pressure on people, then they will develop some ideas, and the other ones looking at Maslow will say, okay, if we just ensure that they do have a safe economy, then they can develop good ideas, be more creative. So I think there's two approaches.
Great. We're approaching the end of this panel on Copenhagen, the new sustainable hub, and it would be interesting to see how that develops. I know in the culture and creative industries, there's this index monitor that is partly financed by the European Commission, where you can see which cities are moving up and down because of the clusters that they have and all that. And it will be interesting to see if we could develop something similar, where we could make sure that we're always on top when we compare with others. We did get a question actually, and judging from the last name, I think it's from Lithuania, but I doubt that maybe I'm wrong. Batteries of swap or cars have very short lifespan, which causes really big and soon occupying problem. How to dispose it? How to dispose with batteries? Is that any of you that have good solutions on that? Nope. That was, sorry,
The solution will be to keep investing.
Yes, that's why we will
looking for
in Copenhagen, you will find a solution to that problem within a couple of years, right? So
we believe in technology. We are optimistic. So I think within a few years, that problem will have solved itself.
Exactly. Thank you to my panel, to Cecilia Lonning-Skovgaard, Mayor of Integration and Employment in Copenhagen, Rolf Kjærgaard, the CEO of the Growth Foundation, Vækstfonden, Dyhr from the Insurance Foundation for the Academics. We have Dyhr, CEO of Greater Copenhagen, and Anette Steenberg, Director of Copenhagen Capacity. Thank you to all of you. Thanks.